smiling through gritted teeth. And the reason why is because I have recorded yesterday and today with my microphone muted, and that does not allow for any audio. Okay. So I'm a little agitated, but it's okay. It's okay because this is real life and real life happens this way. Let me catch you up. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even going to try to repeat what I said in yesterday's podcast or today's podcast. So who knows? I may bring up things that I've never told you about because I don't recall, whether I said it in the previous, whatever. So here we are. We're just showing up and coming as we are, right? What do I want to talk about? Well, let me tell you a story first. Last night, it was 5 o'clock. Yep, it was 5 o'clock, and I was in my studio and my art studio, as opposed to this, which is what we call the podcast studio. And let me just move my little nail cart out of the way. If you look behind me, if you're looking at the video, you can actually see. I usually move the camera so you can't see this. You can see the Skittles, not Skittles, sweet tarts that are sitting on my nightstand because that is my little treat before I go to bed. I have a handful of sweet tarts and it's delightful. Okay. So now that you've seen behind the scenes, this is what happened. I was sitting in my art studio and my husband was in the living room. No, he was looking out the back door, which is the living room. And all of a sudden, like it was super calm. It was looking like it was getting dark outside, but it was pretty calm. And all of a sudden, it was like there was a freight train coming. But there wasn't any like warning. I mean, that's what they say. That's what they say. It was not a tornado, first of all. But it sounded like a tornado was coming. And so my husband was like, "This doesn't sound good." And I went, "Oh my God." And then all of a sudden, boom, the ground vibrated. And my husband said, "That was a tree." And I said, "Yeah." I had no idea. Like, I thought maybe, okay, a gigantic branch fell off of a tree or something like that. Because it doesn't take much to like make the ground shake. Like, so we've had some pretty significant branches fall so far over the past year. We haven't been here quite a year. We have a couple months left to be a whole year. So we've had, I think, one pretty significant branch fall and hit the ground and it boomed. This was like the earth split open. That's what it, okay. So, I think that I've clearly tried to detail the shock factor. So we get up. My husband looks out the front door. Nothing, we couldn't see anything out the back door. Meanwhile, there's still this wind, this rain coming, this storm. And what we felt that it was a microburst. So we start going and looking out the various windows around the house. And there it is, right outside my closet window. A tree came right out of the ground and fell. And it fell in such a way that it didn't hit anything. It didn't hit anyone or anything. Everybody's safe. There is no other path that that tree could have fallen to not hit something. It fell in this blank spot that was the width of the tree and the height of the tree. And I don't know how tall this tree was, but I'm guessing, like not having any idea, like 75 feet tall. It was like one of those big trees that you can't see the top of. So it just ripped right out of the ground and fell. And that was the boom. And it didn't hit anyone. It didn't fall any houses. My husband and I have been talking like if the tree fell the other way, it would have split our entire house in half. Which I happen to be sitting ever so slightly to the left of where it could have fallen. I mean, it could have fallen in any direction, and it fell in that specific direction. So super grateful. Him and I were very much just completely out of sorts last night. Like that adrenaline rush and then the like coming down from it and everything. It was just, I was planning to go to my sobriety meeting last night and I was like, I can't go. I'm not going to be able to focus. I didn't want to go. I just needed to come down from that. So this morning I went to my sobriety meeting and the topic was surrender and letting go. And specifically relating that to the second part of the first step, which is admitting, my mind is blank, unmanageability. So anything that's happening in my life, and I think I talked about this on Monday, which you didn't get that recording, and I wrote a blog instead. Go to my website and you will get to read what that podcast was about that I recorded and the audio didn't record. And while you're there, you can check out my brand new website. No, it's the same website, but lots of new design elements and branding. Same logo, but it looks amazing. I'm super excited about it. So go there, read the blog, and check out all the fun designs. Yeah, so I went too far on a tangent. And now I don't know what I was talking about, but the topic of the day was surrender and letting go. Prior to reaching the point of complete unmanageability. That's the topic. So as I was thinking about this, anything that's happening, that's what I was saying. Anything that's happening in my life at the time that I go to a meeting and I hear people's shares and we revisit whatever step in the big book, I hear it differently. I'm able to get new lessons from it. And so clearly, the topic of surrender and letting go and complete unmanageability was perfectly aligned with this tree falling. Um, what I shared was I told the story of the tree and I said, in life, I try to plan where that tree is going to fall. You know, I could not have planned, I couldn't have planned better where that tree fell. Any path that I would have chosen would have destroyed something, anything. It would have destroyed another tree, even. Uh, there was only one single path that that thing could have fallen on, and that's where it fell. And that is what I find happens in my recovery. If I surrender and I let go and I recognize that that is the perfect example of lack of control. If I surrender and I let go and I don't try to plan where the tree's going to fall, don't try to plan where the bad stuff and how the bad stuff is going to happen in my life, it happens in such a way that I gain the greatest lessons and see the greatest beauty. I mean, that's what happens for me. That's what has happened in my stroke recovery. That is what has happened in my sobriety. Um, so it's this, sobriety and stroke recovery has been like the big things. Where I reached the point of unmanageability and truly like my life is on the line. What about when we are on this path that leads to unmanageability, like things are just falling apart, slowly falling apart, and we don't stop resisting, we don't stop trying to control that which is not controllable until we reach the destination of unmanageability. What if we know how to stop before it gets there? Like in my alcoholism, I reached the point of desperation. In my stroke recovery, when I try to go back to work after my stroke, and I was reaching this point of just debilitating pain. It debilitating doesn't even seem strong enough of the word. Like I just could not live that way, period. Another moment. I needed relief. I needed to surrender. What about surrendering on a daily basis? Fighting reality creates more suffering. And that's what I do on a daily basis when I do things like trying to rebrand my website. Um, I'm when I'm in that situation, I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm fighting the reality that I have a disability and I'm not able to, I don't have the capacity that I used to. And while I'm doing it, while I'm working on my website, now, mind you, I'm not doing it the way that I would when I was in my career because I am aware enough of my disability and my chronic pain that I can't do that. But I do enough that I make things worse. I create more suffering. Um, Either I spend too much time at any given, like, I don't know, period where I'm sitting down and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this for this page and I'm going to do this for this. I do too much. Um, I can't outthink my disability. I can't outthink my brain. I can't outwork my pain. It's just no matter how hard I try, and believe me, I have been trying for 5 years. I've been trying to outdo, to outthink, to outsmart my disability, and I can't do it. And I'm just going to keep reminding myself that I can't do it until maybe one day I'll listen. I know that I'm slowly starting to behave as it were and listen to myself, listen to my body, but not a lot. I mean, I should give myself a little more credit. I do it a lot more than I used to. So I'm learning. But it's just like my alcoholism. Like I could not outthink my alcoholism. I couldn't bargain with it. Um, and it felt like a weakness. I'm sure that lots of people who are in early sobriety, like, can relate to that. It feels like a weakness. And so surrendering feels like I'm giving up on being smart enough. I'm being up. I mean, I'm giving up on fighting for myself. I'm giving up. That's what it felt like for me. And what was actually happening was the opposite. Um, I was giving up on trying to control the outcome. I was giving up on fighting something that is always going to win. In stroke recovery with this vestibular disorder, I think when I'm knee deep in doing something that I want to do, we'll talk about my website because that's the recent battle that I have going on between my ears. I am actively comparing myself to my old life while I'm working on the website. And when I'm doing that, I'm making myself feel less than. You can't do this the way that you used to be able to do it. You know what I did? I actually went to my friend's website, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, is mine as good as hers? That's what I did. I'm being totally honest. So what I was doing was comparing myself, comparing the disabled me to the not disabled me, comparing the disabled me to a professional web designer. Oh, what are you doing? Stop resisting reality. Stop being afraid of who you are. Stop trying to force things that forcing a peg into a round hole, a round peg into a square hole, whatever. A square peg into a round hole. I think that sounds better. Stop trying to force it. Stop telling myself I should be able to do this. Stop feeling resentful that I can't. Stop generating my own anxiety about who I am and what I'm going to be because I can't. It's exhausting. When I stop tightening my grip on the outcome, right? So I'm working on my website and I'm focused on the outcome. I'm focused on uh if I redo this website, I'm gonna look so professional. And then I'm gonna have thousands of viewers instead of 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna have thousands of subscribers because my website is gonna be fantastic and I'm gonna be the next Mel Robbins. Which I looked at Mel Robbins' website. I mean, I'm not stupid. I am going to look at professional websites of podcasters and I'm gonna try to achieve greatness, what I think is greatness. But I need to look at my intentions and my motivations and how is that translating into my behavior? And I can see it. Those are early warning signs. And that's specifically what I wanted to bring light to today in the episode is to be able to recognize the early warning signs so that we can surrender earlier, so we can let go earlier, so that everything that we do in life, we're not approaching this crisis, or we not approaching arriving at a crisis before we make the decision to surrender and let go. Um, Asking for help sooner, uh, picking up the phone and calling someone when you don't feel right, recognizing like, I'm a little sad and I need to tell somebody. That's as simple as it is. I don't need to call my mom and say, I'm obsessing about this thing and I can't eat. I can't sleep because that's what I do. I'm not going to call my mom and share with her that something's upsetting me until I can't eat, I can't sleep, I've got this building anxiety underneath. Like, that's how I roll. And that's not what my mom would want. But why do I do that to me? I'm doing that to me. Um, Surrender earlier, ask for help sooner, pick up the phone and just say words. That's for me, that's what surrendering early looks like. It's opening my mouth and telling someone sooner. Even if that someone is my higher power, that is, pray sooner. I don't have to wait till the end of the day to pray. I can I can let go before the end of the day. I can let go in the morning. I can accept things before I'm bedridden. I can accept, Rachel, you have a disability, you have chronic pain, before I start feeling nauseous, like, okay, those rubber bands wrapping around my head, that headache, that tension headache, it's starting to squeeze. Stop. Like, stop what I'm doing and accept sooner. Um, it reminds me of turning off my wanter. That's what it reminds me of. And I don't know, as much as I talk about turning off my wanter, I mean, I may be wrong, but have I ever mentioned turning off my wanter in stroke recovery? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, my perspective is always different on any given day, in any given moment. But I talk about turning off my wanter all the time in sobriety. What about turning off my wanter in stroke recovery? Turning off my wanter with a vestibular disorder for the purpose of acceptance and letting go and surrender prior to a crisis, a health crisis. And that's what I will. I will achieve a health crisis if I do not surrender soon enough. And I've proved that to myself over and over again. And the health crisis could be that I can no longer look up or down. And that's what's been happening for the past 2 months. I can't look up or down without holding on to something. That's the crisis. That's the crisis. I need to let go sooner. But for me, letting go, I feel like this episode, I'm like, for me and for me. So for me, letting go can feel like I'm giving up. Like, I mentioned that a little, I mentioned that earlier, but letting go can feel like I'm giving up on being the great version of me that I want to be. I'm giving up on making progress in my healing. That's what it feels like. If I'm giving up walking my dog on the long route, and instead I'm going to walk my dog on the short route. Okay, that's the example. If I decide halfway, because there's a point where I can make a decision to take the long road or the short road. Today I took the long road. If I decide to take the short road, I'm giving up on making progress in my recovery. That's what it feels like. And then when I feel like I'm giving up, then I feel hopeless. And that's just how that like unfolds for me. So I think it's grace. I had an episode recently about giving myself grace and understanding, like meeting myself where I am in my recovery with a disability. Like, Rachel, you have a disability. I still can't get that into my thick head that this is permanent. This is permanent. You're a changed person and you need to take care of yourself. Um, this is not just because you can't see it, me, just because everybody else can't see it, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and it's serious. When I was out walking Autumn, I'm scolding myself right now because when I was out walking Autumn, I mean, I love giving her the long walk that she likes. I'm going to stop making excuses for myself. I was out walking Autumn and my eyes and my head were bad enough that I couldn't use them to actually look around. And when I get like that, which I'm doing right now, I, it's like, you know how when you're talking to somebody and their eyes glaze over? I'm purposely making my eyes glaze over so that my brain doesn't have to keep processing what I'm seeing. Instead, it's almost like I change real life into a still image, almost, if that makes sense. I hate when I say if that makes sense. So, moving on. This practice of letting go and surrendering before something becomes a crisis can be practiced. And the way that we practice it is going to meetings, praying, gratitude, step 10 inventory, setting boundaries, listening to my body, the next right thing. Like, I talk about it all the time, but what I like about doing this podcast is that I can show up today with today's baggage and I can unpack it and be like, here, this is the shit that's in my bag today. And this is how I'm going to surrender and let go. Just like I said about walking Autumn. What should I have done? I should have taken the short road and then come back and sat in my backyard and threw the ball for her because I can throw the ball with just by sitting down. I don't have to watch her because we have like a nice natural fence around our backyard. And then I could have rested my eyes in a healthier way. And not to mention, it's not terribly safe for me to be walking down any road, even if there isn't a lot of traffic with my eyes glazed over, with my eyes, with my gaze softened because I'm just that much less aware of my surroundings. So, with trees clearly falling all over the place, I need to be aware. Um, so in closing, surrender and letting go shouldn't be an emergency response. It should surrender and letting go should not be a reaction. It should be preventative maintenance. And that's not the way I treat it. So the sooner that I loosen my grip, I think the more emotionally manageable my life is. So that's on a emotional level. If if you're coming to this podcast from the perspective of somebody living with chronic pain or you're in recovery from some sort of health event, it works the same way. The sooner I loosen my grip on outcomes, the sooner I loosen my grip on who I used to be, the more physically manageable my life is. And in turn, the more emotionally manageable my life is. I had to slow down for those words. So there you have it. I did this podcast twice. And I feel like the value was still there. I feel like the energy was still there. I hope you're with me. Thanks for listening. And I'll always make sure that I don't mute my microphone from now on. And that's how we learn lessons, folks. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.